Right, I believe we're live. Mike, are we? Can you confirm?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we are now live on YouTube.
All right, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this virtual meeting of Ashfield District Council's Cabinet. An exciting one. It must be exciting because I've already had 3 calls from the press. So it's exciting for us. And it's unseasonably warm. So sat in front of a radiator here is not pleasant. Without further ado, we'll go through the Cabinet meeting items on the agenda because I can see that we're all present and correct. So firstly, apologies for absence, if any, they're on because we're all here, apart from the Chief Executive who has been called into a regional meeting about COVID response. But we are ably assisted by Paul Parkinson, who's our Deputy Chief Executive. So thank you, Paul, for stepping into the breach. Then of course, item 2, which is declarations of disclosable pecuniary or personal interests and non-disclosable pecuniary and other interests. And so if anybody has any, Ruth, could you please tell us if we need to all declare a common interest as we are council taxpayers? I think the rules have slightly changed, meaning we don't, but I just want to make sure we're all proper and correct, please.
We don't need to declare it as it's an exception in the legislation. But in practice, we do just note it just out of best practice. But yeah, you don't actually have to formally
okay. Well,
declare.
Could you please just note it, Lynn, in the minutes, obviously, that we're all declaring we are all local residents in Ashfield District, all of the Cabinet and any officers who live in the district. And of course, we have support Cabinet members on the call as well. So if you could note all members that are on the call. Thank you. And thank you, Ruth. So then we have item 3, which is the approval of the minutes of the Cabinet held on the 26th of January. They're pages 5 to 12 in your agenda. I'll formally move those minutes as a correct record. If I could have a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Smith. Does anybody have any questions or comments about anything in the minutes, any accuracy or error? I think it's highly unlikely Lynn will have made an error. She's like Mary Poppins, practically perfect in every way. I can see there are none, so I'm going to move that to the vote, please. All those in favour of accepting the minutes as a true record. Thank you very much. Thank you, Helen. We are unanimous in that. And then we get to the most exciting items, which are starting with item 4, which is the annual budget and council tax for 21-22 and the medium-term financial strategy and the acronyms that go with it, the MTFS. For those of you with a paper copy, it's pages 13 to 44 of your agenda. And I'm going to call Councillor Mrs. Madden to move the report and talk on it. Rachel, if you're ready, please.
I am ready, Chair. As you say, the most exciting time of the year. And we'll take it from there. Sets out the proposed annual general fund and housing revenue account budgets for 2021/22 and the capital programme for 2020/21 to 24/25. The revised HRA and capital budgets for 2020/21 and the district council tax for 21/22. These proposals, if supported by the Cabinet today, will be recommended to Council for approval next Thursday, the 4th of March, 2021. The report also sets out the estimated financial challenge in the medium-term financial strategy for the 4 subsequent financial years. Also, the Section 151 officer's opinion on the robustness of this budget estimates and the adequacy of reserves for which the proposed budget provides. Council tax for 2021/22. I am very pleased to announce that yet again, we will be recommending to Council that the 2021/22 district council tax is frozen for that year setting the district band D equivalent to £190.46, the same as it was last year. We recognise the adverse financial impact the pandemic has had on many of our residents, and by freezing our proportion of the council tax, this will provide some much needed financial assistance. I hope the others that pay for council tax are listening to this, but I doubt it. We move on to the Revenue General Fund budget for 2021/22. I'm also delighted to be proposing this year's revenue budget, as not only does it include significant investment in our digital services transformation programme, which will be to the benefit of both our residents and local businesses, but it will also see efficiency savings into the future. Indeed, some of these efficiencies have already started to be delivered, as you can see in Table 2 of the report. Also, in setting this proposed revenue budget for 21/22, we will be contributing £116,000 to the General Reserve to assist in meeting future financial challenges in our MTFS. We move on to the Housing Revenue Account, HRA. The report includes the proposed HRA budget for 2021/22, which includes £85,000 investment, again linked to the Digital Services Transformation Programme for the benefit of our housing tenants. And again, this investment in DST is already realising and will continue to realise savings for our housing tenants. As you can see in Table 7, additional recurring savings of £136,000 for 21/22. Also included in the report are proposed revisions to the 2021 HRA budget, largely to reflect in-year slippage, delays to the capital schemes in the delivery of the HRA capital programme, the pandemic being the key factor in the scheme delays. With regard to the capital programme, included in the report is the proposed capital programme for 2020/21 to 2024/25, which also includes proposed revisions to the in-year programme to largely reflect slippage from both the general fund and the HRA capital schemes. Our proposed capital programme includes the new Kirkby Leisure Centre, yay, on which work has recently commenced, and the planned extensions and enhancements at both Hucknall and the Lammas Leisure Centres. This is in addition to our ongoing Parks and Open Spaces programme. We have recently submitted business cases for the proposed future high streets and towns fund schemes. And when we know the outcomes of these, we will be proposing their addition to our exciting capital programme through the council. On to the medium-term financial strategy. The update is included in this report and covers the current estimated funding gap for 2022/23 to 2025/26 and the proposed approach to be taken to address the financial challenge. This will include looking at income generation options, savings and efficiencies through service reviews, procurement, asset rationalisation, and alternative service delivery models, as well as invest to save options, principally through implementing and embedding the digital transformation programme. We recognise that the council has, like most district and borough councils, an estimated significant financial challenge over the next few years, with the uncertainty of the impact of the Fair Funding Review, potential business rate changes, particularly as a consequence of the pandemic, and the future of the new homes bonus. However, through the reviews just mentioned and the effective use of some of our reserves in the short term to smooth the delivery of these review savings, we are confident that the council will continue to have a sustainable future. We do have a track record of delivering. Included also the section 151 officer comments. As required by legislation, the report also includes the corporate finance manager's view of the robustness of the budget estimates and the level of council reserves. He has provided assurance that the estimates are robust and recognises that there remains a financial challenge beyond 21-22, and that a strategy has been developed and is being put into place to address that challenge, as I've just described. I therefore have great pleasure in recommending to the Cabinet the recommendations on page 14. I won't read out all 11 of them because I'm sure you all have read your report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Madden. And I'd like to pay tribute to the work you and Councillor Waters have done in the Finance Department. I think that's good. It's clear to see where the savings are coming from, and that's because our Section 151 officer keeps turning off his lighting to save money. So that's leading by example in a great way. Just with all that waving around, I thought you'd got a bat in the room like Teresa had a few meetings ago. In seriousness, I'm obviously delighted by this, and I'd like to clearly thank Pete and all the finance team as well as the members. It's been a very challenging year for us, with the government postponing all sorts of reviews, fair funding, new homes bonus, business rates, all sorts of stuff, and us not knowing exactly where we are. But one might say in that circumstance, it would be prudent to put up council tax. However, I disagree and support the recommendations for a couple of fundamental reasons. Firstly, this council, the senior officers and this cabinet have led us through what has been an unprecedentedly choppy year because of the pandemic in outstanding fashion, and we should be collectively very proud of that. And that has meant that we've not stopped any services, and in fact we are the only council in the UK who have increased waste collection services throughout this pandemic. In addition to that, we've managed the finances so prudently that, as Councillor Madden says, we are progressing apace with major capital works like the Kirkby Leisure Centre. And even this morning, Councillor Barsby went and tried on his new helmet where they've put his name on it. We've spent £1.8 million on parks and leisure this year and drawn in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds of joint funding from other partners because of the work we've done. And most crucially, because of the finance work we've done, it means that in what is effectively a rainy day, you know, they always say, make hay when the sun shines, put stuff away, fix the roof while the sun shines. We've done that. We've been putting money away. We did it last year to smooth this out. And because of the prudent work of us collectively this year, we are still able to contribute more money to reserves to slow what has been quite brutal way the government plan to treat smaller authorities in terms of their funding. So that means we're contributing to reserves. And that would fundamentally mean that if we did choose to raise council tax, it wouldn't be to pay for any services. Everything we raised would be going into the piggy bank, into our reserves. So at this time, I think it's unjust when people are struggling the most to take money out of their pockets to put into our account rather than to fund a service. So this is the most important reason that freezes this year, because people have struggled and we're clearly on their side, and because we didn't need the money this year. Clearly we will going forward, but I think year on year we need to review council tax. And one of the things that I'm most proud of looking across England is that we are now for sure It's been confirmed by all the appropriate bodies that we are the only district or borough council in England to be freezing the council tax when public need it most. So I'm incredibly proud of that. I'll happily second the report, and I'd like to bring in Councillor Waters to, as support cabinet member for finance, to speak next, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, for letting me speak. Can you all hear me? Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I'm really pleased to have been on the team working on the annual budget and the council tax review. First and foremost, the council exists to serve and work for the local people. For many families, the last 12 months have been full of financial uncertainty, of struggle, and even fear. From my personal vantage point, working in financial services as a chartered associate, I routinely deal with accountants, economists, investment managers, financial advisors, and I put together analysis on a number of individuals, small business wealth, and I look at potential issues ahead. In addition, as a local district councillor, I'm seeing firsthand on the ground the impact on families at this very concerning time. Certainly, in the year ahead, there'll be more struggles on families due to the aftermath of the pandemic, on jobs and the economy. I wait to see what's in the budget next month. It's going to be a big impact. Freezing council tax is something I think the Ashfield Independents can do to help, and something I've really pushed for. Freezing council tax is going to help those who have struggled, and the extra savings can make a huge difference to their personal finances in the year ahead. As far as I'm aware, I believe this is the only council in the UK to propose a freeze on council tax. I think this is a real testament to the hard work of the Ashfield Independent Group. Finally, I'd like to say that I'm proud that Ashfield District Council under this administration has become a fine example of how a council should be run. We're providing extra services, value for money, and we're keeping tax low. So thank you.
Thank you, Lee. I really appreciate those comments. Very sensible. Do I have anybody else who'd like to add comments at this point? I've got Councillor Hollis, Councillor Wilmot, Councillor Relf, then Councillor Martin, then Councillor Smith. I think we've got everybody indicating. Right, I'm going to go in that order. Hollis, Wilmot, Relf, Martin first, please. Sorry for the surnaming, everyone.
No, thank you for bringing me in. I think what a great thing. I mean, I think Councillor Waters and Councillor Madden have done a fine job in the finance team there. But there's no surprise that Ashfield Council is one of the only councils, and now been confirmed to be the only council in the UK to be freezing council tax. We're one of the few councils run by local people. And let's be honest, local people know best how to run local services. We also know from the numerous phone calls that the Ashfield Independents have been making that people are struggling and people are worried at the moment. And unlike the county council plan to do, unlike the Labour-led fire authority, we don't want to ask people to pay money unnecessarily. And we're not going to ask people to pay money to the council when we can find other ways of either raising it or finding a better way of spending money. We are on the side of local residents in Ashfield, and I think let's not stray away from how much council tax does worry people. I mean, anybody that's familiar with Martin Lewis, the financial expert, he's done a big piece recently about how worried people are on paying the council tax, and talk people through how to pay the increases and the pressures that's going to put on their budgeting. And isn't it a great thing that we can turn to people here in Ashfield and say, we're not asking you to pay any more. And let's not forget that's part of a wider picture, leader and cabinet, because during that time we've introduced 2 hours free parking, of course, completely free during the COVID. We've invested in play parks, a number of which in my own town in Sutton, and we also plan to invest in more. I mean, we've done an absolutely fantastic job investing up at Brierley, something I'm personally very proud of. And now, of course, plans have been unveiled to invest in Columbia Street Park as well, and of course, all while freezing council tax. Just next to us here in the council offices in Kirkby, we're building a new £15.5 million leisure centre with 2 swimming pools, a cinema, a climbing wall, all while freezing council tax. We've of course been able to do the big spring clean, as the leader touched on already. Other councils have struggled to simply empty the bins. I mean, our neighbours up in Rushcliffe stopped the general waste collection for a number of weeks during COVID. Our team have been absolutely fantastic, and no surprise that they've been put forward for a national award. But we've done extra, collecting everything from settees, mattresses, all sorts of big items, as well as extra bag waste. All been a cost, but we've been able to provide those services to the people of Ashfield, again, all while freezing council tax. And it'd be remiss of me as the Cabinet Member for Housing not to touch on some of the great work the Ashfield Independents have been able to achieve for council house tenants, not only as part of the broader digital transformation, as is mentioned in the reports here. We are investing in the housing team in digital transformation services. That's going to make the tenants easier to communicate with us with regards to problems, pay the bills. It's all bringing our council house stock into a modern performing way. Of course, there's the traditional methods for people to use, but of course, as time moves on, there's more and more people wanting to access these services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's now something that we're transitioning very swiftly to, in a very smart and business-like way, making it easy for people to use. And of course, on top of that, and as part of this broader budget, the council house, under the Ashfield Independent leadership's investing £40 million into the current stock of nearly 7,000 properties across Ashfield. That's something we should be very proud of. You know, we all can think of rented properties across the country that aren't up to standard. I think Ashfield Council as an exemplary council house stock, that's something that our neighbours can't even come close to touching. And this £40 million investment is only going to go on top of all that. And of course, something that we set ourselves as Ashfield Independents, a real key objective, was to build and provide more council houses. We set ourselves the target to put in motion 100 new properties by the end of this term. Of course, as part of this budget, we've done that with a number of years to spare. Number of sites across Sutton and on Davis Avenue and Morn Valley are progressing very nicely, and also sites at old garage sites across Hucknall, bringing grotty, frankly unused sites into some greatly needed social properties. But I don't want to talk too much. I think we can save some of it for the main debate, but I'm certainly very proud as the Deputy Leader of this Council and Cabinet Member for Housing to support this recommendation put forward by Councillor Madden and Councillor Waters. Absolutely fantastic. At a time when we are struggling and people are struggling across the district, to be able to say to them, we can carry out all these services, extra services that I've touched on briefly there and are listed in the report, while freezing council tax. There's no other authority that can touch us. And is it a surprise that local people run this council and the local Ashfield Independents rather than the big political party? I suggest not, Chairman. And I think let's just leave on one final note. None of us are in this for personal reward. Frankly, it's a very testing job being a councillor. But let's just draw attention to Table 2, whereas as part of all this, Ashfield councillors have taken a council allowance cut. And that's listed in the report. So we're charging the public less than Labour ever did for being a councillor and doing a better job of it, I'd suggest. But yeah, I'm very proud to support this, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hollis. I think I concur with everything you say. I had Councillor Wilmot next, then Councillor Relf, then Councillor Martin. I'm still going in that order. And I think most people have indicated to speak, so I will call you. Councillor Wilmot, please.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I'll keep it short because it looks as though most has been said that needs to be said. But because my main thoughts will be in the main debate for council in March, which I've already done a speech ready for. Anyway, we have once again before us a very informative document, and many thanks again to councillors Madden and Waters, and of course Pete and his team. What a splendid job they've done once again. And it also it just sets out the annual general fund and housing revenue account budget for 2021-22 and the capital programme for 2021 and the 24-25. Even with all the problems that this authority has to contend with, and remember, this authority could have increased its council tax by 2% or £5 per annum, instead by setting a no increase council tax that has been recommended to council. And believe it or not, that is no mean feat. We recognise the terrible impact that this pandemic has had on many residents, and we need to be as supportive as is possible without cutting any of the vital services that our residents rely on. Our investment programme has gone a long way in supporting our corporate plan priorities, and the savings that our lead officers have made in the budget will increase efficiency within this authority without impacting too much on the residents. You know, the way that this government has cut the budgets of this council and many other councils has been nothing short of criminal. And it's been over a long, long period of time. But even with all these problems, we have still been able to set a balanced budget, a remarkable achievement. And as I say, Leader, I'll leave it at that because my main speech will be at the full council. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I think we'll be moving standing orders at full council right at the beginning so that you can get your speech in. If you could do it last thing, and then nobody will need Horlicks. Right. Thank you. I have Councillor Relf waiting next, then Councillor Martin, then I think it was Williamson, then Barsby. But I will call everyone because I think everyone's indicated to speak. So, Councillor Relf, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I won't take too long because I think the pertinent points have already been picked out very well. However, I think it is worth highlighting just how much of a role in this that the national government has had in terms of constantly chipping away at the finances of local governments. And I think, you know, we've done an awful lot of work to find new ways of bringing revenue into this council so that we can do fantastic things like this and freeze council tax. Yeah, I mean, you look at Notts County Council, the Tory-run Notts County Council, and they're putting it up by a huge amount. But that's partly because, one, they're stuck with a huge social care problem, which the government is doing nothing to tackle. But also the Tories at County Hall have done nothing to look at alternative ways of raising revenue as well. And so the whole suggestion that has been bandied around over the recent years of local government reorganisation to move to unitary authorities, just look at the sorts of a terrible decision making that goes on at a county level when you don't have local people looking at local innovative solutions and really care about what's going on. So I'm hugely proud of what we're doing here, and I think this is a fantastic piece of news story, and I wholeheartedly support it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Matt, and I appreciate your support because I know actually this is a difficult decision for so many of us because ordinarily council tax means such an important part of core funding, and particularly given the backdrop of how creative we've been as an authority, as you say, with commercial investments and everything else. And we've brought more money into this authority than ever before. Our commercial investments bring in over £4 million of funding a year, whereas this council tax rise would bring in about 160,000. We've done everything we can, as Tom said earlier, reducing councillors' allowances. We've gone above and beyond to make sure we can deliver this saving while delivering the most ambitious projects ever. You know, it's not just the leisure centre, it's not just the parks, it's not just the council housing. In your portfolio as well, it's not just towns funding we're spending or Future High Streets funding, we're spending some of our own money as well to make sure this happens, let alone the core funding of funding the staff who are doing that work. So I'm dead proud of what we're doing. I'm dead proud because this is not an easy choice to do, but ultimately we represent 120,000 people that we are showing that this authority is on their side. And woe betide the government who are being incredibly mean-spirited, number one, by changing the rules and regulations about commercial investment, so that they keep saying, we're pulling the funding from councils, we're making it, making it you are standalone, you're utterly alone there to deal with us your own in a more business way, but then pull the rug out of us to stop us acting in a business-like manner to raise money. And then they talk about this panacea of local government reorganisation. And that's still on the horizon. It's coming back again because they say the way to save money is to roll all these authorities into one. Well, we've shown that that is a terrible idea, because when you've got local people who give a toss about local people, that they make decisions in the best interest. And that's why this is such a good paper, because it's not just about, are we putting the council tax up a few pence? It's not about that. It's a statement about who is on your side. And in this district, it's only ever been this administration. And I'm so proud to lead that. I'm so proud. Councillor Martin, please, before I water up here.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, well, what can I say? I mean, it's an absolutely fantastic piece of work. Of course, I definitely 100% welcome the fact that council tax is not going up. We've been speaking to thousands of people and they're all concerned. Lots have been out of work, they're on furlough. They're just not, kids aren't at school, it's costing them more to live, everything is costing them more. So anything that we could do as local Ashfield Independent Councillors to help our residents in any way, shape or form is bound to be a bonus in my eyes. And I won't be so lucky on Thursday when I'm at the County Council listening to that budget, because that's going to cost me a few quid, because I'm in an F-band property here, and that's going to cost me quite a few quid. When you look at the table of investments, I mean, it's just endless, this paper. And I've got to take my hat off to Pete and the team, because not only have they done all this and they're managing all the finances as well, they've also done over 20 million in business grants in the last few months. Food parcels have been managed by the district council. It's absolutely fantastic work they've been doing on top of the budget and on top of managing the town's funds bids when we see what they are, and the high street funding as well. So there's a lot of investment coming into it, Ashfield. But this investment programme here from the council's own programme, 327,000 in that programme there, savings of 309 in efficiencies, including, as Councillor Hollis alludes to, a cut in members' allowances of over £23,000. It just goes on and on. But one of the other things that everybody keeps on about, and I don't think anybody realises the gravity of this shift in government funding for local authorities such as Ashfield. I was talking to Pete only the other month, and he told me that in 2008, the district council used to get around about 13.1 million from the government, and now that's £198,000. So that's only about 30 odd grand more than we get from a council tax increase. So it's absolutely fantastic work. And then it goes on, of course, the investment programme in the leisure centres. 4 new schemes have been added to the capital programme. Where else in the country is anybody adding such great projects like a new swimming pool for Hucknall Leisure Centre, the Kirkby Leisure Centre, and Lammas Centre is going to get additional work on it as well. It's just absolutely fantastic. And like everybody keeps saying, not only have our refuse teams been working and we've not cut any services whatsoever, we've actually increased them. We're just in the middle of the last week now of the big spring clean, where our staff heroically, even through this pandemic, are going out and going above and beyond the call of duty and collecting extra side waste. It's just absolutely fantastic. And I don't think anybody could cast aspersions on the way that the Ashfield Independents run this district authority. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, I don't like not having the mute control. Mike's got too much power. Thank you, Councillor Martin. I wouldn't like to let you be muted again before you waxed lyrical about one of the other capital projects that you yourself has steered through this council, which is the huge investment that's coming to Selston Country Park. And I want to pay tribute to the work you're doing in the rurals, because while lots of people are going around driving their vans, no more after they've been fined today, by the way, but while other people are driving around making false promises, you're delivering for Selsdon through the work you're doing and through this administration. And we found the money to do incredible extra work over there in the rural areas because they've been forgotten for a long time. So I'm delighted with the work you've done over there. Right, now I've lost my thread. I had Councillor Williamson, Councillor Barsby, Councillor Smith, who's currently unloading about 200,000 envelopes. So good luck, you Blues, in 73 days. But I'll call you now, Councillor Williamson, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Can everybody hear me all right? I see nodding, so I'm assuming unluckily you can. No, thanks. There is so much that we can talk about and that we can pull from this report, and it's absolutely fantastic news for the residents of Ashfield. Now, a lot of my time recently has been spent up speaking to my residents, taking welfare calls, understanding more of the problems that we face in what is called a new normal and a COVID society. And the one thing that has always come up time and time again throughout all of my calls now, through campaigning previously, every time I speak to residents, they want to know what value their councils bring at a district level, at kind of what value that they receive for the money that they pay in through their council tax, through the contributions. What do they get out of that? And the one thing I am absolutely delighted about and proud of to be a member of Ashfield District Council is that every penny that comes in through our portion of the council tax, you see where that is being spent. You see the good work that we are doing for this council. Millions into our parks and leisure transformation, millions into a new leisure centre, money to have the work done in what Councillor Roslin quite rightly stated was the forgotten rurals, Selsdon Country Park. Every last penny that comes into this council, we show a positive impact with. We show what we can do with that money. And when we don't have to, we don't take any more out of the pockets of hardworking local residents. It's been a tough year for absolutely everybody. I don't care who you are, how much you have, what you own, anything. The last year has been absolutely awful. And any small considerations you can get to help you in your life, such as a freeze on council tax, I feel is very, very well welcomed. Now, you see every last penny that we put through in our council tax, you see the benefit it brings. And I am so immensely proud that we are the only district council that hasn't raised our portion of the council tax this year. We won't be able to say the same for Nottinghamshire County Council on Thursday. We haven't been able to say the same for the Police and Crime Commissioner, who has ramped up his portion of the council tax as well. And linking it back to that question that I'm asked all the time is, what is the value of this? Because quite frankly, from the county council, for an increase in council tax year on year, we see no value other than them paying off some of their own debts, or paying to paint Trent Bridge, or paying to build themselves a new set of offices. We see no benefit from the money from the increase from the Police and Crime Commissioner other than to employ himself a non-elected assistant on an absolutely absurd wage. That money is wasted. That is more money out of poor people's pockets. It absolutely goes to waste. And I'm absolutely delighted, beyond proud, everything we spend on this district goes on such positive work for the council. Of course, I will be absolutely supporting this freeze on council tax. I support all the recommendations. And in case you couldn't tell already, I am so proud that we are going to be able to bring this to the full council next week. Thank you, Chair.
Just unsure there, Councillor Williams, are you in support or not? Councillor Barsby, I have you next, please.
Chief Leader, thank you very much. How can you follow that passion, Chair? How can you? He is a passionate lad and he is Ashfield independent through and through. And I'm, again, proud to support this budget again today, because what we've got to take into account is this. We are freezing our part of the council tax. What I want to do today, before anybody else decides on what they're going to do with county, police and fire, is I hope they listen to what we have said in this meeting today. Because at the end of it, come April, when the bills start going out, and I'm urging every Ashfield resident to look at their bill and see Ashfield District Council has froze their part of the council tax, and look at the other three on raising them and how much it's going to cost them, especially, and we've mentioned this today, we're in a pandemic, and we're still in a pandemic, and the likelihood is most of this coming year will still be or feel the effects of this pandemic, that I would like them to readjust what they're going to be doing when they set their presets. Because at the end of the day, we have a great team at Ashfield District Council, within the officers, within the cabinet, within our own members as well, that if we can do it and keep delivering on what we've delivered throughout this last during this term of this council, then we ought to be saying, and this is to you, leader, we ought to be saying to County Council, come 71 days, we could be challenging to set the next budgets. And I would hope, and this is seriously, that the Ashfield residents, instead of going, not all, but the minority, instead of going on Facebook and pulling us down all the time, just look where your money is being spent. And I congratulate every officer, every member of Ashfield District Council in doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Keir. And what I really appreciate are the comments from Councillor Wilmot and Councillor Barsby, who have been on this authority for many, many years and have seen budgets come and go over successive administrations, Labour, Independent, Liberal Democrat, and they've seen lots of different budgets. And I think both of you have told me privately how different this feels now, that the council is in order. So Keir, you can come back if you wish. Mike, can you?
Yeah, he's done me. It's certainly, Chair, Leader. The simple reason is, in the past, some political parties have only froze the council tax or their part of the council tax just because it's an election. Fact. Because I've been in the room when it's been said and done. But we're not. We're freezing it to help our residents and still delivering on services. Can be done.
Can. Just needs some hard work. That's why we're lucky to have such good officers and members, I think. Right, who else did I have? Councillor Smith has been waiting patiently. Ellen?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm not going to say a lot because a lot's already been said. I just want to say to members that this week I have had a letter from the electric company saying that my electricity is for £100 over the next year. My gas is going up £70 over the next year. And it doesn't sound a lot, £175 a year over gas and electric extra. But when you put council tax on top of that,
sorry, Chair, we're getting quite a little bit of feedback. I think there's another machine probably in Helen's vicinity that's providing a lot of feedback.
Sorry, I think it's my fault, guys. Yeah, so when you add it up and with the council tax increases that are going to be coming from Notts County Council, if you live in a parish, the preset increases that you're going to be getting, I think it's only right that we freeze our portion of the council tax. It's the one thing that we can do to help our residents. And while we've got that opportunity to do it, we need to do it. I didn't get into politics to take money off people when there's absolutely no reason for it. Anyone that knows me knows that I've always objected to an increase in council tax just for the sake of an increase in council tax. We've seen it year after year after year on this council, at Notts County Council. At the police authority, where just a few weeks ago I voted against an increase in council tax there. They're doing it to put it into the reserves. Why? There's absolutely no need to do that. If you're going to increase council tax, do it for a specific reason and have something that you can show for it. Don't just do it to put money into the bank. I fundamentally disagree with it. When we've got the opportunity to not increase it, I think that is absolutely the thing that must be done, not just by us, but it must be done by every other council across the country. Rather than wait until the government says what the cap's going to be to decide what your council tax increase is going to be, just freeze it. If you've got the opportunity to do it, take a lead from the Ashfield Independents, copy us for a change. You're copied us with the spring clean, copy us with the council tax increase, council tax freeze. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you for dashing at speed into a different room because I wasn't moving. Do I have anybody else waiting to speak? Well, I do feel like we've debated this enough. So I'm going to ask Councillor Madden to summate, unless Councillor Waters would like to say anything before we move to the full summation. I'm going to ask Councillor Madden to summate. It has been moved and seconded, so following that summation, we'll move to the vote. Rachel?
Thank you, Chair. Lots of positive comments from all the speakers so far, so I won't go through what I was going to say. You've covered things that are important, like value for money and things like this. And also the fact that at Annesley Parish, of which I am a member as well, we haven't increased the precept down there either, and yet managed to provide an excellent outdoors play area, of which you enjoyed earlier in the year. People out there have been saying we break our promises. Well, I don't think we do. As people have itemised, as we've gone through everything, we promised you an increase in this, that and the other. And it's there. I remember, Jason, back in 2007-8, whenever we opened the Lammas, you promised Kirkby, it's coming. If anybody doubts it, go up behind B&M, you'll see all the building processes. I wish to argue with Councillor Hollis because I think we do come into it for personal gain. Our personal gain is to see the ongoing improvements in the quality of life for our residents. It makes me feel good. Thank you, gang, for backing us all up in all the different areas you do it. But my main thanks are to the officers of the Ashfield District Council. We come up with the bright ideas.
Rachel, you might need to get that. It's Rishi Sunak asking how to do the job.
He's welcome anytime. I'll tell him. No, the officers of Ashfield District Council are there to interpret the political will of whoever is the ruling group. And they're doing such a sterling job on all the aspirations we had when we took over back in 2019. Thank you very, very much from me, and I'm sure the rest of the Cabinet. But last but by no means least, thank you, Pete Hudson, for putting up with everybody, including Jason and me wittering along in portfolio. So I have great pleasure in commending to Cabinet all 11 recommendations on page 14 of your report. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Rachel. Right, without further ado, I shall move to the vote. For everyone who is in favour of the 11 recommendations as printed would indicate, please. And Councillor Smith, are you voting? Yes. Lynn, we are unanimous. Thank you. Right, thank you. And we are moving on to the next item, which is pages 45 to 84 in your books, please. It's item 5, the capital strategy, key decision again, and I'll bring in Councillor Madden again, please, to present the report. Rachel.
You're going to have enough of my voice by the end of this meeting, I tell you. Right, here we go. This is a bit drier, I'm afraid. The Chartered Institute of Public Finance Accountants SIPFA Prudential Code requires that all councils need to have a capital strategy to A, demonstrate that the authority takes capital expenditure and investment decisions in line with service objectives and properly takes into account stewardship, value for money, prudence, and affordability. And B, to give a high-level overview of how capital expenditure and treasury activity contribute to the provision of services, how associated risks are managed, and the implications for future financial sustainability. The capital strategy has been refreshed and updated for the year 2021 to 22. The main changes are to reflect that the revised capital programme, which is also to be presented at this meeting, does not include any plans for further commercial property investment. The last acquisition was made on the 2nd of April 2020. This is to ensure that the council maintains access to the Public Works Loans Board as a borrowing source for its capital plans. Additional categories of potential capital expenditure have been added to the strategy for regeneration and economic development and the giving of third-party loans to give the council greater flexibility. MHCLG statutory guidance on local government investments require that the council has a non-treasury management investment strategy. This is the council's commercial investment property strategy, which details the ongoing monitoring processes and risk mitigations to manage the existing investment portfolio. The detail regarding the acquisition process has been retained within this report for completeness. Commercial property investment portfolio indicators are also included as are required by the MHCLG guidance and the SIPFA Prudential Property Investment Code. This report was considered and supported at the Council's Audit Committee on the 1st of February 2021. I therefore commend to the Cabinet the following recommendations. 1, that the Cabinet reviews and notes the contents of the capital strategy for 2021/22, including annexes 1 to 3, and that Cabinet recommends that Council approve the capital strategy, commercial property investment strategy, and the commercial property indicators. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Madden. Oh, sorry, I'm happy to second that report. Does anyone wish to speak on it? Councillor Hollis first then, please.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you again, Councillor Madden, for submitting this report. Obviously, this is a very technical report and really just to meet the legalities of what the council has to do. But I think it's important to note some of the underlying politics and some of the changes we've had to make. One of the things we were quite keen to progress is some of the investment strategy of the council, investing in uber kind of safe bets, very safe industrial units, whatever it might be. Hotels, staying away from kind of shops and things like that, which I think is prudent, but really safe financial investments that this council could make to then plough that income into projects and infrastructure within Ashfield. Very sensible move. But of course, the Conservatives and their, I could argue, rich donor friends who are also competing with now local authorities, don't want local authorities investing in infrastructure like that, and have now subsequently penalised us to the point that we no longer can do that, or made it extremely difficult, I think, at the very least, by not allowing us to borrow money from the Public Works Board to invest in properties. I think it's a really devastating move, and it's certainly going to put a lot of pressure on our council's finances going forward. And I really wanted to use this opportunity, Leader and Councillor Madden, just to highlight my frustration and the fact that this was going really well. Why change it? And seemingly the only reason that all local authorities, but particularly pragmatic ones like ours, who were investing in commercial property, are no longer able to. And I think that's obviously going to have a detrimental effect on public services here in Ashfield, and only a beneficial impact on Conservative Party donors, Leader. But obviously, with regards to the report directly, fantastic job again by Councillor Madden and Councillor Waters, as well as Pete and his team. And obviously, I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hollis. Does any other member wish to add anything? Councillor Waters, as a support member, do you wish to comment on this paper as well?
I just pretty much echo everything that Councillor Hollis has said there. It just seems like a steal by the Conservative Party and their donors. We should be allowed to invest in commercial property. It has been something we've been successfully able to do. Nottinghamshire County Council haven't done it, and we see them increasing their council tax year after year. And we've shown by making sensible investments, we don't need to do that. I can only look to other issues like the Labour Party and Nottingham City Council, where they've made a mess of their finances and will have to, well, increase council tax phenomenally. But Ashfield District Council have been sensible in how we've managed our finances and our investments. So it's a crying shame.
Totally agree. Thank you, Councillor Waters. If there's nobody else indicating, then I am going to ask Councillor Madden if there's any summation. Otherwise, it's been moved and seconded, and we'll go to the vote. Rachel, have you any concluding words?
No, just to thank people for their support, albeit not as fulsome as the previous item, but I did warn that it wasn't quite as much fun. But so the recommendations are at the top of page 46. So I ask for people's support. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're going to have to do something about Pete's light. It's causing me heartburn with laughter. All right, everyone. So if everyone could turn their cameras on, who's about to vote, please. There, it's been moved and seconded. All in favour of the report as printed. And I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is unanimous, Lynn. Thank you. And then, thank you. Oh, I've skipped off the agenda. We go on to item 6, which is the Treasury Management Strategy. I don't know why these need an acronym. I hate them. Or the TMS for officers. It's pages 85 to 124 of your papers, please, everyone. And again, it's Councillor Madden to present the report. Rachel, please, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. I hope to get support on this one as well. The report sets out the Council's proposed Treasury Management Strategy for the year 21/22 and includes the Treasury Management Strategy Statement, TMSS, the Borrowing Strategy, the Annual Investment Strategy, Minimum Revenue Provision Policy, Investment Strategy, Prudential Indicators and Treasury Management Indicators, and the Treasury Management Practices Risk Management. SIPFA Treasury Management in the Public Services Code of Practice requires that the Council approve these policies. This report was reviewed and supported at the Audit Committee, as I've said before, on the 1st of February 21. The purpose of the policy, the main purpose of the Treasury Management function is to ensure that cash flow is adequately planned, with cash being available when it is needed for day-to-day business. And the second main function of the management function is the funding of Council's capital plans. In order to ensure the surplus money the Council has is secure, it is required to have an annual investment strategy. This states where the council can invest its money and sets the maximum investment limit. Whenever the council borrows money to pay for capital expenditure, it is required to make a minimum revenue provision, get my teeth in, to repay the amount borrowed on maturity of the loan. This report proposes slight change so that the council's MRP policy allows it to not apply MRP on loans to third parties, as the MRP will be offset by the capital receipts from the repayment of these loans. The council is required to set the prudential indicators each year. These indicators set limits on how much the council can borrow. The borrowing limits are based largely on the capital financing requirement, which represents capital expenditure that is still to be paid for by the council. Other prudential indicators show the estimated historic and incremental impact of capital borrowing decisions on our council taxpayers and council house residents. These are shown in Annex A of Appendix 1 of the report. This report also includes an amendment to the Treasury Management Practice 1, which now excludes Canada from the list of approved countries for investment purposes, as it has lost its AAA rating with Fitch. For those who don't know what that is, that goes to show how good at credit risk you are or not. The report also includes an update from the Council's Treasury Management Advisors, Link Asset Services, on the prospect for future interest rate changes. Therefore, the recommendations on page 86 are that Cabinet 1 reviews and notes the contents of the TMS for 2021/22, and 2, recommends to Council that they approve the Treasury Management Policy Statement incorporating Treasury Management Strategy Statement, Borrowing Strategy, Annual Investment Strategy, Minimum Revenue Provision Policy, Prudential Indicators and Treasury Management Indicators, and last but by no means least, the Treasury Management Practices Risk Management. Therefore, put the recommendations as I've stated, and try not to giggle next time, Jason, you put me off. Thank you, Chair.
Giggling at me, not at you. Somebody needs to give me a few shillings.
Yeah.
Right, thank you, Councillor Madden, for moving that. I will second and open it up to the floor. Firstly, Councillor Waters, do you have any comments as the support member for finance?
I've got nothing further to add at the moment, but I may come back in.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Anybody other than Des? Go on, Councillor Martin.
Sorry, I couldn't do the unmuted. Yes, thank you very much, Chair. So I'd just like to thank Pete for this piece of work, because although it's a very staid and it's a policy paper at the back of everything we do, really, and it's it really is good, because we get a lot of smoke and mirrors about what happens with district council finance, and of course we have tried to be more diverse in the way in which we approach our investments, and the government have now circumvented that to some extent, and that's an argument that's still going to be going on nationally, I believe. But it really just show the actual due diligent approach of the finance officers at our district council, and this clearly sets it out in no uncertain terms. I mean, they took Canada off the list. You know, I mean, that really just says how diligent they are with the way they approach it. And of course, it looks like a boring council paper, but it serves a real functional job in the background, and it indemnifies this council against errors and issues that perhaps if it wasn't such a due diligent process, we might fall foul to, and you hear about it in the paper across the country all the time. So thank you for this background work as well, Pete. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. I don't see anybody else indicating, so unless Lee or Rachel want to summate, I'm going to move to the vote. Lee, anything? No. Councillor Madden, anything? Okay, that's moved and seconded. Can everybody undo their cameras if they're about to vote, and vote if you are in favour of the recommendations, please. And Councillor Hollis, are you voting or not? Yes. Then we are unanimous again. Thank you very much. Right, and now we are on our final item, which is the corporate risk update. It's pages 125 to 202 in your agendas, please. And it is Councillor Samantha Deakin to present the report, please. Samantha, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. The corporate risk update, I'm hoping you've all gone through it. So today it's here to consider whether there's any further immediate actions or any mitigation to any risks that are shown on it. And we've also done a new risk appetite framework in regards to the risk update as well. So that's all about as a council, our level of risk. Where are we in what risks we want to take? Are we very risk takers? Are we in the middle, or are we never going to take a risk? So there's a lot of information in there. There's some new risks that have come on the register this time, and most of those are on due to COVID, due to things that have happened that are way beyond our control and that nobody could have foreseen that these would be coming at us this year, last year. So some of those are in regards to our ability to maintain delivery of all services with staff absences during the time. We've got a potential loss or delay in receipt of things like business rates or council tax or housing payments. And also there's bits and pieces to do with our ability to meet our statutory obligations. And again, that's within our housing team, for example, maintaining our gas safety so that we're going into houses and making sure that's done. And obviously these have been real challenges this year, with people isolating, whether they're vulnerable or whether they had COVID at the time. So there's been a lot of work go into this. The introduction of universal credit, that's increased about 40%. And COVID played a part in that as well. But we've done really, really well. If you look through this, 50% of the risks that were already on here have all managed and maintained, and they haven't increased in their risk level, even with everything that's been happening around us. And 25% of our risks have gone down. So that's the immense work of the officers. That's their hard work, their dedication to this. And in all, it's a very good detailed report. It was something that our audit committee have asked for, and they wanted a few more bits and pieces. So this is going to be something that comes to Cabinet more frequently now, so that we can keep our eye on it, so that we know where we're at, so that nothing's going to take us by surprise. Even things like COVID, we know where we are and what we're doing. So massive thanks to Joe for this report. And I don't know if there's anything you want to add, Joe, but I'm hoping you've already, and you all think we've done very, very well over the last 12 months.
Thank you, Councillor Deakin. Thank you, Chair. I don't think there's anything more to add. I think you've covered everything sufficiently, Sam. Thank you.
Brilliant. Right, then I'm happy to move the report.
Thank you, Samantha. I'm not sure how you got off so lightly there, Joe. Right, do I have any other questions, comments? Anybody wish to speak? Councillor Martin and Councillor Wilmot, please. Councillor Martin, are you seconding the report?
Yes, Chair, I'll gladly second the report. And I'll take you back to the budget papers on table 1 investments, 124,000 in DST. Part of this department is successful because of that investment. And during Sam and Matt's diligent approach to rationalising the website and the way that the communications are running there, it's already showing savings of £47,000 a year. And it's not really all about the financial side of it, although that is of a great benefit to us all. It's about how the public can interact on a much quicker basis. Because before we started this programme, it was like being in the age of the dinosaurs. and now we're moving rapidly forward into a very, very conducive way that the members of the public can access the services. And not that my opposition members like to criticise me much here in Selston, but we have been criticised for relaunching a new website with shock and awe. They wondered why we were doing it. But of course, obviously, it proves that people want to be able to interact with the council in a much more efficient way and a technologically advanced way, such as we are. And thank God we did it when we did, because COVID came along and we were prepared for it. And that's what I'd like to say. We were ahead of the game again, ahead of the curve, and we're constantly improving that. With a £127,000 investment, this £124,000 investment in this year's capital programme here in Table 1, and that's only going to be reaping the rewards and benefits in the way that people can interact with this district council, and I just think it's highly commendable. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Wilmot, please.
Thank you, Leader. Once again, a very thorough report. I'd like to thank Samantha and Joe for the hard work that they put in this report. And it just does show how difficult times are at present under this serious pandemic. It has seriously hit us hard in some areas, as shown in this document. But I'm confident that this council has in place the necessary actions to mitigate these risks. And it is good to see that the corporate risk strategy has been updated to understanding all these risks. Scrutiny of this document is essential, and I'm sure the leadership team, the Cabinet, the Audit Committee, and other elected members all take this document of the strategy and the treasury management practices and the risk management very, very seriously. In the investment strategy, it sets out the limits that can be invested and the types of investments that can be considered. It is very important that this strategy is followed, as we are funding the borrowing requirements associated with the new Kirkby Leisure Centre and many other leisure centre improvements through external borrowing. It is noticeable that the council is reviewing risk management. Well, reviewing the risk management training, an essential part of member knowledge. The risk rating scorecard is an excellent addition to risk management and should be followed explicitly. And finally, risk is a serious issue to all councils, but this council will follow a comprehensive risk assessment programme, identifying and analysing all risk facing the council. It's a good report, and as I say, it may be a large report, but I think we will be very successful in making sure that the risk is not too bad for this authority. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Wilmot. Is there any other comments? Councillor Hollis, please.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Joe and Councillor Deakin for the report. I think let's be truthful. You know, all authorities, all businesses, all individuals have risk, some of which is out of our control, some of which is in our control. But mitigating it is 100% within our gift and handling it. And of course, understanding what they are is a part to that. And I think it's great that Councillor Deakin and Joe have really come to a good list on exactly what is the challenges facing this authority. But I wanted to pick up on a few risks that are obviously in the housing department, one of which is with regards to unpaid rent and also the rollout of universal credit. Of course, completely out of our control. Normally, Ashfield Council is very swift at taking action on long-term unpayers. Obviously, that's separate to people who are in financial difficulty. But members will be aware there's been a number of tenants that have, because of courts closing down their systems during the pandemic and not allowing us to remove tenants, have taken that as a nice advantage not to pay us any rent. And of course, with the housing list, as long as we've got, I think it's absolutely awful that we aren't able to house people in genuine need as people who are not being forthcoming with their obligation to paying the rent. So I'm quite frustrated with that. But I think, as the report makes clear, we understand exactly where that risk now lies within the housing department. And I can certainly confirm to members that we'll be taking some very swift action. as we are becoming allowed now, but certainly going forward with targeting all our help at people who genuinely need the help, and being very less understanding with people who've chosen to just be not fair, I think, with regards to not paying their rent, and getting people who actually do off the long housing list that we now currently have in Ashfield. But no, it's a great report, and it's obviously good to understand where the risk sits within Ashfield, but obviously a lot of it's out of our control. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hollis. I don't see anybody else waving at me. If anybody does wish to say anything, please indicate now. Can't see anyone. All right then, Councillor Deakin, have you got anything you'd like to summate or conclude with? No, in that case, I shall move to the vote. It's been moved and seconded. Thank you all. All those in favour, please show them. Councillor Martin, are you still there? No, Councillor Barsby's just texted me that he's lost connection. But those of us who are here are unanimous, so we shall accept that report. Right, thank you all for a lively and exciting meeting. No doubt they'll get ever more so over the next few days. And stay safe. See you all soon. Bye-bye.